The queen's daughters never touched a human until that night. The crystalline spires of Pallas Luminaris shrieked as the electromagnetic storm tore across the violet sky. Empress Valora stood at the observation deck, her silver robes rippling with energy of their own, watching the tempest with ancient eyes that had witnessed 1,000 such storms. Yet this one felt different. This one carried something in its wake. "Mother, you summon us?" Serena entered first, her warriors framed tense with anticipation. Her crimson battle marks gleamed along her jaw, earned in the arena trials. Behind her came Lisa, the scholar, clutching a data tablet to her chest, her gentle features creased with concern. Finally, Lil Kale drifted in, the youngest at merely 90 cycles, her empathic senses already reaching out to taste the room's emotional texture. "My daughters." Valora's voice carried the weight of empire. "Tonight, we break the oldest law of our bloodline." Before they could question her, the throne room doors burst open. 2 guards dragged in a figure, human male, bleeding from a dozen wounds. His dark hair was matted with rain and blood, his clothing torn from what appeared to be a crash landing. Yet even unconscious and broken, there was something defiant in the set of his jaw. A human? In the palace? Serena's hand moved instinctively to her absent blade. "His name is Marius," Valora said softly. "A rebel, a fighter, and according to the stars, our salvation." She turned to face her daughters fully. "He will die within the hour unless we perform the transferal rite." The words hung like poison in the air. The transferal rite, the sharing of royal life force through direct contact, forbidden with humans for 3,000 years. "You cannot be serious," Lisa whispered. "I have never been more serious." The Empress's gaze hardened. The prophecy has begun. The healing chamber glowed with bioluminescent vines that crawled along the vaulted ceiling, casting everything in shades of azure and gold. Marius lay upon the central platform, his chest barely rising with shallow breaths. The 3 princesses stood at the threshold, hesitating. "If we do this, there's no reversal," Lisa said, her voice trembling. She had read every forbidden text in the royal archives, knew exactly what the transferal rite entailed. The moment our energy touches his, we become linked. Our life forces will recognize each other, will feel what he feels. "I know the risks, sister," Serena replied, though her usual confidence wavered. She stepped forward first, her warriors' training overriding her fear. "But Mother believes this is our destiny, and I've never known her to be wrong about the prophecies." Kale said nothing, simply moved to stand beside the human. Up close, she could sense the fading embers of his consciousness, like a candle guttering in a storm. Pain radiated from him in waves, but underneath it, there was something else, a fierce determination to live, a love for something beyond himself. It called to her. "He's dreaming of someone," Kale whispered. "A sister, I think. He's trying to stay alive for her." The revelation softened something in Serena's expression. She approached the platform, rolling back her sleeves. "Then we give him that chance. Position, sisters." They had studied the ancient ritual in secret texts, though never imagined performing it. Serena placed herself at Marius's right side, her hand hovering over his chest where his heart struggled to beat. Lisa moved to his head, her fingers trembling as she prepared to touch his temples. Kale took his left hand in both of hers, feeling the calluses of a warrior, so different from the smooth courtiers she'd known. "On my mark," Serena said. 3, 2, 1. Their hands made contact simultaneously. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Energy poured from the 3 princesses into Marius's broken body. Not the gentle flow they'd expected, but a torrent. Golden light erupted from their palms, sinking into his skin like water into parched earth. His back arched as the power flooded through him, knitting torn tissue, mending shattered bones, reigniting the dying spark of his life. But the energy didn't flow in only one direction. Serena gasped as sensations crashed into her mind, memories that weren't hers. She saw through different eyes. A child had spent in the lower districts of the city, scrounging for food. A sister's laugh, bright and clear. The day the Empress's soldiers came and took that sister for unpaid debts. The rage, the helplessness, the decision to fight back against an empire that devoured the weak. Lisa's brilliant mind reeled as emotions flooded her normally ordered thoughts. She felt his pain, yes, but also his passion, his fierce love for a world beyond the palace walls, for people she'd only read about in reports, his dreams of a different future, and underneath it all, a loneliness that mirrored her own, the isolation of being different, of seeing what others refuse to see. Kale's empathic abilities amplified everything 1,000-fold. She didn't just feel his emotions. She became them. His fear of dying, his hope for his sister's freedom, his sudden awareness of the three presences inside his mind, foreign yet familiar, and then shock, confusion, wonder. Marius's eyes opened. They were gray, like storm clouds, and they fixed on each princess in turn with an intensity that made Serena's breath catch. He tried to speak, but Lisa's hand on his temple kept him still. "Don't move," she whispered, though her voice shook. "The ritual isn't complete. We have to maintain contact until your life force stabilizes." What are you?" His voice was rough from disuse and pain. "We are the daughters of Empress Valora," Serena said, trying to sound authoritative even as his emotions bled into hers. She could feel his fear spiking, his instinct to flee. "And we just saved your life." "Why?" The question came out as barely more than a breath. Through their connection, the sisters felt his genuine confusion. He'd been prepared to die, had accepted it. This made no sense in his world where royals and humans existed in separate spheres. Kale squeezed his hand gently. "Because the stars said we must." The next hour was agony and ecstasy intertwined. The ritual required them to maintain physical contact as their energies synchronized. Every wound Marius had suffered, they felt echo through their own bodies. Phantom pains that made Lisa whimper and Serena grit her teeth. But they also felt his strength returning, his amazement at being alive, his growing awareness of each of them as individuals. And he felt them too. Through Serena's palm on his chest, he sensed her warrior's discipline, but also her secret doubts about the empire she served. Through Lisa's fingers at his temples, he experienced her vast intelligence and her desperate longing for purpose beyond scholarly pursuits. Through Kale's hands clasped around his, he drowned in her empathic ocean, her ability to feel everyone's pain, and how it had isolated her since childhood. "I can feel you," he whispered, wonder replacing fear. "All of you. Your thoughts, your feelings. It's like you're inside my mind." "And you're inside ours," Lisa replied, fascination overtaking her initial reluctance. This shouldn't be possible. The texts say the transfer will right create a bridge, but this is complete integration. As the golden light finally began to fade, none of them moved to break contact. They should have. The ritual was complete. Marius's life signs had stabilized. But separating felt wrong, like tearing away a part of themselves. It was Serena who finally pulled back, her warrior's discipline reasserting itself. The moment her hand left his chest, they all felt it. A sharp, aching loss, as though something vital had been severed. Marius actually cried out, his hand tightening on Kale's. "What was that?" he gasped. "The bond," Kale whispered, her eyes wide with realization. "It doesn't want to be broken." Lisa withdrew her hands from his temples, and again that wrenching sensation of wrongness. She stumbled backward, pressing a hand to her forehead. The text never mentioned this level of connection. Only Kale maintained contact, unable to bring herself to let go. Through their joined hands, she felt everything, his confusion, his fear, but also a growing warmth. Not just gratitude for being saved, but something deeper, recognition, as though his soul had found something it had been searching for. "We should let you rest," Serena said, though she had to force the words out. Every instinct screamed at her to return to his side, to reestablish that connection. "You've been through a trauma." "Wait." Marius struggled to sit up, his newly healed body still weak. "Your mother, the Empress," she said something about a prophecy. What did she mean? The three sisters exchanged glances. Through their new bond, they could feel each other's uncertainty about how much to reveal. "Rest first," Lisa said gently. "We'll explain everything when you're stronger. For now, know that you're safe. No one will harm you here." As they turned to leave, Marius called out, "What are your names? If we're connected, I should at least know that." Serena looked back, and for the first time in her life, felt her cheeks warm with something other than exertion. "I am Serena, firstborn commander of the Royal Guard." "Lisa," the scholar added softly, "second daughter, keeper of the archives." Kale finally released his hand, immediately missing its warmth. "And I'm Kale, the youngest." She hesitated, then added, "I'm glad you're alive, Marius." His smile, weak as it was, sent an unexpected flutter through all three of them. "So am I, though I suspect my life just became infinitely more complicated." "You have no idea," Serena muttered. The first 3 days after the ritual were torture. Marius had been given a chamber in the East Wing, far enough from the royal quarters to maintain propriety, but the physical distance meant nothing. The bond stretched between them like elastic, growing tighter and more painful with each passing hour. Serena found herself unable to focus during combat training, her attention constantly pulled toward wherever he was. Lisa abandoned her research 3 times in one afternoon, pacing the archives with a restlessness she'd never known. And Kale simply hurt. Her empathic abilities, already overwhelming, now had a permanent fourth presence in her consciousness. She could feel Marius's confusion, his attempt to understand what had happened to him, his growing discomfort with the bond. But she could also feel his curiosity about them, his reluctant fascination. On the 4th morning, Serena broke protocol. She found him in the training courtyard, moving through basic combat forms with a borrowed practice blade. Despite having nearly died less than a week ago, his movements were fluid, practiced, the muscle memory of a born fighter. "Your stance is off," she called out, unable to help herself. Marius spun, sword raised, then relaxed when he saw her. Through the bond, she felt a spike of alarm fade into something warmer, pleasure at seeing her, which he tried to suppress. "Princess Serena." He lowered the blade, offering a slight bow. "I wasn't expecting company." "Don't bow to me. It feels wrong." She descended the steps into the courtyard, her own practice blade already in hand. "Your feet are too close together. You're favoring your left side." "Old injury," he admitted. "Took a spear through the ribs 2 years ago. Never healed quite right." "May I?" She gestured to his side. Marius hesitated, and through the bond, Serena felt his internal conflict. The touch of a royal was forbidden to someone like him. But they'd already shattered that law, hadn't they? Slowly, he nodded and lifted his shirt. The scar was vicious, jagged, the mark of a weapon twisted as it was pulled free. Serena's fingers hovered over it, and the moment her skin made contact with his, they both gasped. The bond roared to life, pain disappearing as pleasure flooded through them. Not sexual, exactly, but intimate. The deep satisfaction of a puzzle piece finding its place. "Better?" she whispered, her hand still on his skin. "Much." His voice had gone rough. "Serena, what is this? What's happening to us?" She should have pulled away, should have maintained the distance her station required. Instead, she stepped closer. "I don't know, but I think we need to stop fighting it." For a long moment, they simply stood there, connected. Through the bond, Marius felt her conflict, duty warring with desire, protocol battling instinct, and she felt his amazement that someone like her, a princess, a warrior legend, could look at him with anything other than disdain. "Teach me," he said suddenly, "your fighting style. I've never seen anything like it." It gave them an excuse to touch. Over the next hours, Serena corrected his forms, her hands on his shoulders, his hips, his arms. Each point of contact strengthened the bond, made inevitable separation more painful. But they were warriors, both of them. They understood pain. What they didn't understand was this growing thing between them, this warmth that had nothing to do with the ritual and everything to do with the man who made her laugh with his irreverent comments about royal protocol, who moved with a grace that matched her own, who looked at her not as a princess but as an equal. Meanwhile, Lisa found Marius in the archives that evening. "Can't sleep?" she asked, though through the bond, she already knew the answer. He looked up from the star charts he'd been studying, surprise flickering across his features. I didn't know anyone else came here this late. I practically live here. She settled into the chair across from him, tucking her legs beneath her. What are you reading? Trying to understand your world. He gestured at the charts, the history texts, the cultural primers. If I'm going to be connected to you, to your sisters, I should at least understand the empire I spent my life fighting against. And what have you learned? That it's more complicated than I thought. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair in frustration. The propaganda in the lower districts paints your mother as a tyrant, but these records show infrastructure projects, educational reforms, medical advancements, things that benefit everyone, not just the nobility. The truth is usually complicated, Lisa said softly. My mother isn't cruel, but she's also not always just. She sees the empire as a whole, which sometimes means individuals suffer for greater good. Like my sister, the words hummed between them. Through the bond, Lisa felt the old wound, the anger that had never quite healed. Tell me about her, she said. And he did. For hours, Maria spoke of growing up with Elena, 7 years his junior. Their parents had died in a factory accident, one of the infrastructure projects gone wrong, leaving him to raise her alone. He described her laugh, her dreams of becoming a teacher, the way she'd look at the stars and imagine worlds beyond their own. Then the debt collectors came. Elena had needed medicine, expensive medicine. Marius had borrowed from the wrong people. When he couldn't repay, they'd taken her as collateral, sent her to work in the palace kitchens until the debt was cleared. She's here. Lisa sat up straight. In this palace? I don't know. I was arrested before I could find out. The rebellion. It was never about ideology for me. It was just about earning enough to buy her freedom. Lisa's brilliant mind was already working. What's her full name? Elena Corvus. 19 years old. Dark hair, green eyes. Hope flared in him, bright and desperate. You could find her? I can access the staff records. She was already standing, moving to the archive terminals. If she's here, I'll locate her. As she worked, Marius came to stand beside her, close enough that their arms brushed. The bond hummed with approval. Lisa found herself acutely aware of him, the warmth of his body, the scent of training sweat and old books, the intensity of his focus as he watched the screens. There, she breathed. Elena Corvus. Kitchen staff, level 3. Contract term, 5 more years. 5 years. Marius's voice broke. She'll be 24 before she's free. Unless the debt is forgiven. Lisa looked up at him, decision crystallizing. I have personal funds. Inheritance from my grandmother. I could... No. He caught her hand, stopping her. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because I need to earn it myself. I need her to know that I fought for her, that I didn't just let someone else fix my mistakes. His fingers tightened on hers. But could you make sure she's safe? That she's treated well? The request was so earnest, so vulnerable, that Lisa felt something crack in her chest. This man, this human who should have been her enemy, cared so deeply for his sister that he'd sacrifice his own pride to ensure her safety. I'll do better than that, she promised. I'll arrange for her to be transferred to the archives. The work is easier, and she'll have access to education. If she wants to be a teacher, she can study here. The gratitude that flooded through the bond nearly overwhelmed her. Marius pulled her into an embrace before either of them thought about it, and Lisa found herself wrapped in his arms, her face pressed against his chest. Through their connection, she felt his emotions, relief, hope, and underneath it all, a growing affection for her that made her heart race. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. You don't know what this means to me. But she did know. Through the bond, she felt everything, and what she felt scared and exhilarated her in equal measure. Cale found them like that, still embracing in the soft glow of the archive lights. Through the bond, she felt Marius's emotional turbulence and come to investigate. Now she stood in the doorway, feeling like an intruder on something intimate. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't mean to interrupt. They separated quickly, both flushed with embarrassment. But Cale could feel that they weren't really sorry, not about the embrace itself, only about being caught. "It's fine," Lisa said, smoothing her robes unnecessarily. "I was just helping Marius with some research." "I know." Kale drifted into the room, her empathic senses drinking an emotional atmosphere. "I felt it." His joy, your satisfaction. It was beautiful. Marius studied the youngest princess with open curiosity. She was different from her sisters, smaller, more delicate in appearance, but with an intensity in her eyes that spoke of vast depths. "Does it hurt?" he asked, feeling everyone's emotions all the time. "Sometimes." She settled onto the window ledge, drawing her knees to her chest. "Most people's feelings are like static, background noise. But you three, my sisters and you're different. Clear, like music instead of noise. Is that why you've been avoiding me?" The question came gently, without accusation. Kale nodded slowly. "Your emotions are so strong. Pain, love, anger, hope, all tangled together. It's overwhelming. But also," she met his eyes, "also addictive. I find myself seeking you out through the bond, even when I know I shouldn't. Why shouldn't you? Because you're human. Because this bond isn't supposed to exist. Because," her voice dropped to a whisper, "because I feel things for you that I don't understand." The confession hung in the air. Lisa moved to her sister's side, taking her hand. "We all do," she admitted. "This bond, it's showing us parts of ourselves we didn't know existed." Marius looked between the three of them, Lisa holding Kale's hand, both watching him with expressions he couldn't quite read. Through the bond, he felt their uncertainty, their fear, but also their hope. They were as lost in this as he was. "Then maybe," he said slowly, "we should stop trying to fight it. Stop pretending this is just about some prophecy or ritual. Whatever this bond is, it's real. What we're feeling is real. And what are you feeling?" Serina's voice came from the doorway. She'd followed the pull of the bond as well, drawn to where all four of them seemed to orbit. Marius turned to face her, and for the first time since waking in the healing chamber, he allowed himself to be completely honest. Terrified, amazed, grateful, and something else that I don't have words for yet. When I'm with any of you, I feel complete, like I've been walking around with pieces missing my whole life, and you're what I've been searching for. "All three of us?" Serena challenged, though her voice was soft. "Yes." He met her gaze steadily. "All three of you. Is that possible? Is that allowed?" "Nothing about this is allowed," Lisa pointed out with a wry smile. "We've already broken the most sacred law of our people. With a few more taboos." Kale laughed, a bright, genuine sound that made them all turn to stare. "I like him," she declared. "I like that he makes Serena smile. I like that he gives Lisa purpose beyond her books. And I like that his emotions feel like home." "This is insane," Serena said, but she was moving toward them even as she spoke. "We barely know him. This bond to be influencing us, making us feel things that aren't real. Do your feelings feel false?" Marius asked. She stopped, considering. Through the bond, they all felt her internal examination, the way she tested her emotions like a warrior checking her armor for weak points. Finally, she shook her head. "No, they feel like the first real thing I've experienced in years." "Then we have our answer." Lisa stood, drawing Kale up with her. "We stop fighting this. We accept the bond and see where it leads. And if it leads to disaster?" Serena pressed. "Then at least," Marius said quietly, "we'll face it together." The four of them stood in a circle now, close enough to touch. The bond pulsed between them like a living thing, urging them closer. It was Kale who reached out first, taking Marius's hand. Lisa took his other hand, and Serena completed the circle by joining hands with her sisters. The moment the circle closed, energy flared between them. Not the overwhelming torrent of the ritual, but something gentler, warmer. It felt like coming home after a long journey. Like finding something precious you thought was lost forever. In that moment, connected by touch and bond and something deeper still, they all felt it. The beginning of love. Not the instant, passionate kind from stories, but the real kind, built on understanding, on shared pain and joy, on the courage to be vulnerable. Whatever comes, Serena whispered. We faced together. Together, the others echoed. And in the archives of Palace Luminera, as 3 moons rose over the crystal spires, for souls bound by fate and choice began to truly become one. The summons came at dawn. Empress Valora waited in the Observatory of Fates, a chamber at the palace's highest point where ancient star maps covered every surface. Marius and the 3 princesses entered together, and the Empress's expression flickered with something between approval and sorrow. The bond has deepened, she observed. It wasn't a question. Yes, Mother, Serena answered, her hand finding Marius's. We stopped resisting it. Good. You'll need that unity for what comes next. Valora activated the central projection, and the room filled with holographic stars. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors received a warning from the celestial oracles. A being of pure entropy, the Void Shepherd, would one day come to harvest our world. The projection shifted, showing a darkness that seemed to devour light itself, moving between galaxies like a cosmic predator. It cannot be seen by our kind, Valora continued. Our evolution, our very biology, makes us blind to its presence. Only humans, with their shorter wavelength visual perception, can perceive it, but humans lack the power to fight it. That's where we come in, Lisa breathed, understanding dawning. The bond allows us to see through Marius's eyes. Precisely. The prophecy spoke of a human marked by royal blood, one who would bridge 2 species and grant us the sight to face our extinction. Valora's gaze settled on Marius. You are that bridge. The bond you share with my daughters is the only weapon we have. Marius felt anger surge through him. You manipulated this. The storm, my capture, the ritual, all of it was orchestrated. Yes. Valora didn't deny it. I've waited centuries for the signs to align. Your sister's debt, your rebellion, the celestial storm, all threads I pulled to bring you here. Elena, Marius whispered. You took her deliberately. I needed you desperate enough to fight, to survive. I needed you to have something worth living for. The Empress's voice softened slightly. Your sister is safe and will be free regardless of your choice. But the choice itself must be yours. Stay and help us face the Void Shepherd, or leave. I will force nothing more upon you. Through the bond, the sisters felt Marius's turmoil, betrayal, anger, but also understanding. Valora had done what she believed necessary to save billions of lives. It didn't make it right, but it made it comprehensible. When does it arrive? He asked quietly. 3 days. The Void Shepherd has already entered our star system. Kale moved closer to Marius, her hand finding his. You don't have to do this. We could run. All of us. Find somewhere. Where? Marius interrupted gently. Where would we go that this thing won't eventually reach? And how many worlds will die if we do nothing? He's right, Serena said, though her voice was heavy. We're warriors. This is what we were born for. Lisa was already at the data terminals, pulling up everything the archives contained about the Void Shepherd. If we're doing this, we need to understand what we're fighting. Mother, what else does the prophecy say? That the human and the 3 royal daughters must merge their essences completely, a permanent binding of life forces. You will become something new, something neither fully human nor fully of our kind. The transformation will give you the power to face the shepherd, but Valora hesitated. There's a cost. There always is, Marius said bitterly. What is it? You can never be separated again. Not just the pain of distance, but actual death if you're parted for too long. You'll live as one or die as one. The weight of it settled over them, to bind their lives together completely, to surrender individual autonomy for collective survival. It was a sacrifice beyond measure. I need to see my sister first, Marius said finally. Before I decide, I need to know she understands why I might not come back. Lisa had already arranged it. An hour later, in a private garden, Marius held Elena for the first time in 2 years. Through the bond, the princesses felt his overwhelming love for her, his relief that she was healthy and safe, his grief at potentially leaving her forever. You've grown so tall, he whispered, stroking her dark hair, and you've become a legend, Elena replied, pulling back to look at him. She glanced at the three princesses, standing at a respectful distance. The servants talk about nothing else. The human who touched royal blood and survived. The one who bonded with all three daughters. Her eyes searched his face. Do you love them? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. All three. Is that strange? No, stranger than anything else in this galaxy. She smiled, though tears tracked down her cheeks. Will you come back to me? I'll try, but if I don't, then I'll know you died protecting worlds full of sisters and brothers just like us. She hugged him fiercely. Make it count, Marius. Make every moment count. When they parted, Marius walked to where the three princesses waited. He took Serina's hand, then Lisa's, then Kale's, forming their circle once more. I'm staying, he said, not because of prophecy or duty, but because I choose this. I choose you, all of you. Serina pulled him close, her lips finding his in a kiss that sent shock waves through the bond. It was fierce and desperate, a warrior's kiss, full of promises and fears. When they broke apart, Lisa claimed him next, her kiss softer, intellectual passion translated into physical intimacy. Finally, Kale, whose kiss was gentle and deep, carrying all the emotion she felt but rarely expressed. Then we do this together, Serena declared. We face the Void Shepherd and we win. And if we don't, Kale asked softly. Marius smiled, though his eyes were shadowed. Then at least we'll have had this. 3 days of being complete. That's more than most people get in a lifetime. The next 3 days blurred together in preparation and stolen moments of intimacy. They trained as one unit, learning to fight through their shared consciousness. Serena taught them combat tactics. Lisa developed strategies based on the ancient texts. Kale learned to channel their combined emotions into focused energy, and in the quiet hours, they simply existed together, talking, laughing, touching, building a foundation of love that would need to sustain them through the coming darkness on the final night. They performed the permanent binding ritual. In the same healing chamber where their journey began, they stood in a circle, hands clasped, and spoke the ancient words that would fuse their life forces forever. The transformation was agonizing and beautiful. Their individual energies merged, swirling together like colors in water until they became something new, a shared consciousness that was somehow still four distinct voices. When it was done, they could feel each other's heartbeats, sense each other's thoughts, experience the world through 4 sets of senses simultaneously. I can feel everything, Kale whispered in wonder. Serena's strength, Lisa's brilliance, Marius's determination, and they can feel me. We are one, Lisa confirmed, her eyes bright with tears. Truly one. Marius pulled them all close, and they spent that final night wrapped in each other's arms, sharing not just physical intimacy, but emotional and spiritual communion. They made love as one being in 4 bodies, experiencing pleasure and connection beyond anything they'd imagined possible. When dawn came, they were ready. The Void Shepherd arrived as predicted, descending through the atmosphere like a hole in reality itself. To the gathered armies and citizens of the Empire, there was nothing, just empty sky. But Marius saw it clearly, a vast, writhing entity of pure darkness, ringed with what looked like eyes but were actually portals to nothingness. I see it. He transmitted through the bond, sharing his vision with the princesses. Through their merged consciousness, Serena, Lisa, and Kale suddenly perceived the threat. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and it radiated hunger, an endless void that consumed matter, energy, even light. Positions, Serena commanded, her tactical mind taking the lead while drawing on all their strengths. They'd chosen the Crystal Plateau for their stand, a place of power where energy currents ran deep. The 4 of them stood in formation, Marius at the center, eyes locked on the shepherd, the 3 princesses surrounding him, channeling their combined power. The entity noticed them, for small sparks of life in a world full of prey. It shifted course, moving directly toward them. It's analyzing us, Lisa observed, her intellect parsing the shepherd behavior, looking for weaknesses. Then we give it none, Serena growled. Kale, amplify our emotional resonance. Lisa, calculate its movement patterns. Marius, don't lose sight of it. I'll coordinate our strike. The Void Shepherd struck first, extending tendrils of darkness that devoured everything they touched. The four moved as one, dodging with superhuman coordination, their merged consciousness allowing them to anticipate and react with zero delay. Serena channeled their energy into a lance of pure light, hurling it through Marius's targeting. It struck the shepherd's core and the entity shrieked, a sound that existed beyond normal hearing, felt rather than heard. "We heard it!" Kale cried out, but the shepherd adapted. It split into multiple forms, attacking from all sides simultaneously. The four fought with breathtaking synchronization. Serena's combat instincts, Lisa's strategic thinking, Kale's emotional intuition, and Marius's human perception creating a perfect fusion of abilities. Yet it wasn't enough. A tendril of void stuff slipped through their defense, slamming into Marius's chest. He screamed as the darkness invaded him, seeking to consume his life force. Through the bond, the princesses felt his agony as their own. No! Serena threw herself forward, placing her body between Marius and the shepherd. The tendril pierced her instead, and she gasped as nothingness flooded into her. But she was stronger than a human, her royal blood resisting the dissolution. She had seconds, maybe less. "Lisa, Kale now!" she transmitted through the bond. Understanding flashed between them. They discussed this contingency, but hoped never to use it. The ultimate sacrifice, using their life force as a weapon, burning themselves out to destroy the shepherd. "Together," Lisa whispered, taking Serena's hand. "Forever," Kale agreed, completing the circle with Marius. Their combined consciousness expanded, drawing on every reserve of power. The bond that connected them became a conduit for something greater. Love transformed into energy, sacrifice into strength. They channeled everything they were, everything they could be, into a single focused strike. The light that erupted from them was blinding. It shot through Marius's targeting, through Serena's tactical precision, amplified by Kale's emotions and calculated by Lisa's brilliance. It pierced the Void Shepherd's core and detonated. The entity's shriek of agony echoed across dimensions. It thrashed, trying to retreat, but the light followed it, burning away the darkness, unraveling the fundamental bonds that held it together. Within seconds, the Void Shepherd dissolved, scattered into harmless particles that drifted away on cosmic winds. Victory, but the cost? The four of them collapsed on the crystal plateau, their life forces nearly extinguished. They'd poured too much into the attack, burned too bright. Death beckoned. "Worth it," Marius gasped, his hand finding Serena's. "Worth every moment," she agreed, her voice barely a whisper. Kale and Lisa pressed close, forming their circle one final time. Through the fading bond, they shared their last thoughts, memories of their time together, gratitude for the love they'd found, acceptance of their fate. But Empress Valora had one final trick. She appeared above them, flanked by a dozen royal healers. "The prophecy spoke of sacrifice," she said, "but not of death. Your bond is unique. It can be fed from external sources." The healers surrounded the four, placing hands on each of them. Royal life force, not a binding, but a gift, flowed into the merged consciousness. Slowly, agonizingly, the light of their lives strengthened. "Mother?" Serena whispered in confusion. "You save us all," Valor replied, tears streaming down her face. "Did you think I would let you die for it? These healers volunteer a portion of their life force. It will sustain you until your own regenerates." Hour by hour, the four recovered. Their bond, tested to its absolute limit, emerged stronger than ever. They weren't just connected anymore. They were truly one being with four expressions. When they finally stood, dawn was breaking over the empire. Marius looked at his three loves. Serena fierce and proud, Lisa brilliant and gentle, Kale empathic and deep, and felt complete. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Valor said, "you become what you were meant to be. Not human, not of our kind, but something new, the first of a new species, one that can protect this galaxy from threats both species alone cannot face." "And Elena?" Marius asked. "Freed and funded to establish the teaching academy she dreams of," Valor assured him. "You've earned that and more." Serena took his hand, then Lisa's, then Kale's. their circle, their bond, their eternal unity. So we'll be guardians now? If you choose, Valor replied. The choice, as always, remains yours. The four looked at each other, communicating in the wordless language of their bond. Images flashed between them, challenges to come, adventures to share, a future built on the foundation of their love. Together, Maria said finally, always together, his three queens agreed. And so they walked into their new life, for souls bound by fate, united by choice and made eternal by love.